What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. My name is Patrick, and on this channel I talk about cryptocurrency, decentralized finance, and economics. So if you enjoy those topics, be sure to like and subscribe. AVAX and Luna are teaming up in what is one of the largest crypto layer 1 partnerships ever, and also Near announces that they'll be launching their own algorithmic stablecoin with a similar tokenomics model to Luna and UST. With these two developments, the layer 1 wars for the future of the crypto space are really heating up, and I think this could potentially be the start of a new paradigm as these chains compete. I'll go through all that and more in this video. Let's get into it. First, what exactly is the news with AVAX and Luna? So just yesterday, LFG, the Luna Foundation Guard, announced that they acquired $100 million in AVAX for their reserves for UST. And as you might remember, they previously acquired a large amount of BTC to the tune of billions of dollars. And so this is the second asset they're adding to their reserves, which is a major partnership in and of itself, because that shows they didn't choose Ethereum as the second asset. They didn't choose BNB. They chose AVAX. But the partnership actually goes quite a bit beyond that. So for starters, they are also partnering to build a gaming subnet on AVAX. So Luna will actually be building a subnet geared towards gaming on AVAX. And additionally, so this is from just today, Do Kwon, founder of Terra, tweeted out that UST will be minted and redeemed against AVAX on Avalanche. UST becomes AVAX native. And Do Kwon has said before that his product that he's focused on is UST. So this is interesting because that means that in the AVAX ecosystem, AVAX will actually have a similar role that Luna has in the Terra ecosystem, where AVAX can be, it probably won't be burnt, but will be somehow spent or locked up to be redeemed for UST and vice versa. So this is really good for AVAX. And it's also a major partnership between two of the largest ecosystems. Additionally, some other things that Luna is doing is that Terraform Capital will be covering initial bootstrapping costs for new projects that use UST in the AVAX ecosystem. And they will be sponsoring other projects that are currently on Avalanche, like Anchor and Nebula, or they're currently on Terra, Anchor and Nebula, to move to Avalanche, and Anchor has already done so. So this is really big, and it potentially indicates that UST could become the dominant stablecoin on AVAX, and certainly the Ava Labs team is throwing some of their weight and partnership behind UST. And this is cool, but it's really interesting, I think, in conjunction with some other news that came out yesterday as well. And it was first leaked in this Medium article from Captain Cole, who is involved in the Near ecosystem, and he said that on April 20th, Near will announce the launch of their own native algorithmic stablecoin, USN, in partnership with other well-capitalized stablecoins. And they will offer an extremely attractive around 20% APR. So that's slightly higher than Anchor Protocol currently is on Terra. And that is extremely interesting, because you might recall how well Luna performed this year. It was one of the best performing cryptos of the past year and is currently safely in the top 10. No guarantee where it will be in the future, but it's made its way into being one of the top crypto projects, the largest non-stablecoin project, except for BTC, ETH, and BNB. So that is enormous, and so the Near team is hoping to replicate some of that success. And what I think is so interesting about this and so important is that I think this is going to kick off potentially a new wave of layer ones competing for money, liquidity, market cap share, etc., with their own algorithmic stablecoins. So, for example, we already saw this a bit with Waves. Waves was a rather old blockchain, and they had a project called Neutrino, or they still have it, where you could lock up Waves and mint USDN. And that had been around for a while, but it really started to, the USDN market cap really started to go up starting around in February. And this led to the Waves price pumping from under $10 to at its peak around 60 something dollars. And that was in just over a month. So that is an insane rise. This was already a top 100 project before this. So that is massive. And I think what's happening is projects are seeing what happened with Luna. They're seeing what happened with Waves. And so if you are a layer one and you want to gain some extra attention, or perhaps you are struggling to gain traction. And by the way, I don't think that's Near. I think Near has a lot of things going for it anyways. But if you're struggling to get attention, then perhaps you start an algorithmic stablecoin and you say, well, let's just look at what happened with the Waves market cap, for example. It went from $1 billion to $6 billion. So you're saying it can bring all this money into the ecosystem. And I guess we'll see how it works out, but I want to make a comparison now to what happened with layer ones last year that were compatible with the Ethereum virtual machine, because that was a big paradigm last year, was chains competing for DeFi liquidity and activity. And a lot of them launched EVM compatible subchains to compete in this race. And so quick history lesson for those of you who weren't in the space then, it really kicked off with Binance chain. So BNB is the native token of the Binance exchange, and they had their own chain, which was not EVM compatible. And then sometime back in the fall of 2020, they launched their Binance Smart Chain, which is EVM compatible. But then it really started to gain traction starting in February of last year. And BNB jumped from 40 something dollars all the way up eventually to almost $700, which is an insane price rise, especially considering it was already such a large coin. And then Polygon did the same thing. Polygon was previously known as Matic, which is why the token is still Matic. They became an EVM sidechain, you might call it, of Ethereum. And then they announced an incentives program in April and pumped from around 30 cents, which was already a nice run up, boom, all the way up to almost $3. And so this sort of kicked off every project wanting to have their own EVM subchain. We saw Avalanche, which is one of my favorite projects still. They had their own EVM subchain over here, which didn't get a ton of traction, but then they announced their own incentives program and they created their new bridge so people could easily bridge from Ethereum. And you can see AVAX jumped from under $20 all the way up to around $150 at its peak. Some other ones we saw was CRO, the crypto.com. They had their crypto.com chain, which was not EVM compatible. They relaunched their Kronos chain, which was EVM compatible, and their price in the span of something like a week or two went from 20 cents up to almost $1, 5x, and it was already a large coin. Near, likewise, similar playbook. Near is not EVM compatible, but they launched Aurora on top of Near back in the late fall, and look what happened. It went up from not quite as dramatic as some of those other ones, but it more than doubled and became one of the top coins. So I think what's going to happen now is coins are seeing what happened with Luna, they're seeing what happened with Waves, and look, just announcing that they were gonna launch this coin saw Near pump from around $15 up to almost $20 last night. I suspect some of these other chains are going to do the same thing, and that could be a new paradigm in the future. The chains competing for liquidity on their Algostables, and you think about it, they have a lot of leverage for how they can do that right now. Anchor Protocol on Luna is accumulated around probably around $16 billion TVL. And it's done that by offering almost 20% APR on stablecoins. Could Near offer 30%, 40% APR on stablecoins? Yes, they could. And they could do it not forever, but they could do it pretty easily for a couple months. So I'm expecting some of these chains are going to offer really nice rewards on their own algorithmic stablecoin, 20, 30, 40, 50%, even more, and try to suck liquidity from other chains onto theirs. And so just something that I wanted to make everyone aware of. Some things to watch out for is that probably the first couple chains that do this are going to see insane returns, like BNB, like Polygon, to some extent like Avalanche did. But what's going to happen is eventually, as it gets saturated and more chains try this, we'll see what happened with near where, yes, it got a nice 2.5x, but it didn't get the 10x that the other chains did. So I think that if you do this, you want to try to get on the first few chains that do it, and then you probably want to take some heavy profit. And another thing to note is that Algostables crash as hard as they go up, so you definitely do not want to still be in this rotation when the music stops. Something I'll be sure to cover more on this channel. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.